Sales Report, and today very, very excited to be joined the head of relations from Ayr Wellness, Megan Kulick, along with the Chief Development Officer of Ayr Wellness, Mark Pitchford. Mark, Megan, thanks for joining us here on the show. How are things? Mark, we'll start with you.
Great, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Where are we? I think somewhere I want to be, it looks like.
We're in one of our R&D rooms in Sparks, Nevada at the Kind Cannabis Facility.
That's great. What's the state of Nevada been like this year for you? I've talked to Jonathan in the past, but it's been incredible from what I've heard so far with a lot of the revenue that's being generated. But before we sell all that stuff, it obviously starts with you with cultivation, right?
For sure. Yeah, Nevada's been a great state for us, to kind of plant our feet in. And I think it's been about 5 years rolling in the state of Nevada and been very successful due to environment, teamwork, whatnot. It's been a great state to, get started in.
That's great. Fully vertically integrated, now expanded, Megan, to 8 states. Big news earlier this week. You enter into Illinois. What's the feedback been like so far? And obviously it's a big move, another step in the right direction for the company.
Well, I mean, obviously we're really excited as we expand our footprint, Chad. We've talked about, getting into the states that really matter and can address, 80% of the population. And we're really excited about making our first steps into Illinois. Obviously, those are just the preliminary steps. We want to be vertically integrated. And I think as we talk about, getting into Illinois, retail is not the end game. It is the end game actually, but it all has to start with cultivation. So we'll be looking to be vertically integrated in every state.
Yeah, and I think a lot of viewers, they want to know like where we're sitting right now today. And I know we bring in a lot of CEOs, and we've actually talked to Jonathan a lot in the past, and he's like obviously a great leader within the company. But we got to understand obviously what goes behind the scenes, and I want to understand the cultivation side. So Mark, let's begin with you. Where does cultivation fit into the company's overall strategy and culture?
I mean, it's definitely our motivation to be the largest and the highest quality producer in all the states is our end result. We like, to have that boutique style growing, but yet take it to the commercial scale. And that's what I think, that keeping that same quality throughout the process has been our biggest vision.
Yeah. So we've had, as I said, Jonathan on the past, and he's told me in the past where he frequently talks about the quality of end products produced by your company, Ayr Wellness. He talks about how some of your brands being the best in the industry, and the numbers show that. So what is involved when it comes to certain techniques where growing flower, let's say, is better than your competition?
I mean, back to the point of, we took a boutique growing method and, used the standard SOPs and data to bring it up into a process, for a larger scale. And that's been one of our biggest goals. Some of these, facilities are designed, prior to us coming in, and, we need to redo the engineering, get it to the environment that we're looking for from climate, fertigation processes, and kind of set a standard through each of these facilities. That's what been a tough strategy to do, but with the teamwork and the way that we've all come together and communicated with the data, it's worked out great for us. Manipulating these environments and working with our genetics and strong SOPs, working with the team, it has been, probably our number one asset so far.
Like you've talked about some of the, hurdles that you have to overcome when you're looking at different facilities in different states. How much from a cultivation aspect has your job evolved ever since, like, let's say, for example, COVID that hit onto the scene, obviously 18 months ago?
It's evolved to the point where COVID was a big challenge for us.
Yeah.
I think we came together, we all kind of jumped in the pool together, came up with a strategy, how to work through it. We really came together as a team. I don't know if it slowed us down whatsoever. We have a strong team, that's for sure. Optimizing our processes and just keep that ball rolling. And I think that's what we did it as a team together, led by John spearheading this, of course.
And Shad, obviously in our cultivations, we run in a very clean environment. So we made obviously they had to make some adjustments to cater to what needed to be done for COVID. But it's a very sterile and clean environment in all of our cultivation facilities. So it wasn't that big of a stretch to to change procedures that needed to be changed to maintain the right standards for COVID as well.
Do you think a lot of that is happening enough in this market across the U.S.? And if so, what you just outlined, how much of an advantage does that give you?
And this is based on COVID?
Yeah, no, not necessarily COVID, just the facilities that you're working at. Obviously, the conditions that you obviously have your facilities up to par. Do we see enough of that currently right now in the American landscape when it comes to cannabis? And if so, what kind of advantages does that present to you?
And if you're referring to like growing in different states and the challenges that come across on that, it is definitely a big challenge for us. Every state is different. We have high and low temperatures and humidities. Basing that across the spectrum has been a tough challenge. We've been able to overcome that with data, engineering, and teamwork, and we've done really well. Coming off from initially walking in from something we have acquired, working with that team, keeping that culture with that team, and moving on and keeping it successful. We're always trying to learn and optimize our performance at any point in time. And that's what I think AYR does especially well, is the communication between any acquisition that comes onto us that joins our family.
As I said before, you're fully vertically integrated model where you grow cannabis in different states nationally, including, in the addition of Illinois now into 8 states. But when you go back to certain different conditions, what would you say, I guess, are the big notable differences to say growing, let's say, in the state of Massachusetts versus cultivating in the state of Arizona or Nevada?
I mean, back to what I said before, the high and low temps and humidities is always a tough challenge for us. We've been very successful by, using a lot of data and engineering to come up with these models. We need to hit certain parameters, and those engineering features that we bring in that data really helps us determine what those parameters are. We have certain set parameters that we like to see everything grow in, whether you're in Florida or Arizona. So optimizing our performance has been huge. We'll put out there, the talent that we bring in really helps for that, the SOP process, and maximizing that and continuing that from state to state is a huge piece of that. Florida, for instance, I'll put that out there. That was a tough one. I walked into that facility, high humidity, different environments. We knew that there was a lot of room to grow in Florida, and I was really surprised of how well our team did at the end of the day, walking in there and maximizing what we have on that footprint and increasing the yields and what's happening now. We haven't even got into the engineering side. I'm super excited where Florida is going to be here soon by the new engineering models we'll be putting in there to help those growers be the best.
Well, in my last interview with Jonathan, he did mention how AYR put a lot of effort into restructuring Liberty Health's grow operations after the acquisition to become more efficient, produce better yields. So it's a big opportunity. What was your first reaction when you found out that you're entering into Florida? I'm sure that was probably exciting for you from a cultivation standpoint.
Well, prior to M&A, it was a little nerve-wracking when I walked in to see where we're going to start from. But I'm like, well, if this is our starting point, we definitely can go up. And we've seen that progress. And so I've been excited to see where we're at. I'm impressed where we're at just by SOPs, talent, and procedures that we've all worked together as a team. Mostly spearheaded by, the team there. But, we're supporting in every aspect we can to get them to the top tier that we want to see in Florida in the future.
Chet, I just want to expand a little bit on that because, you've heard Jonathan talk about just our goal of being like the best cultivator at scale in every market that we're in. And the scale of the Florida operation, I think is something that is really exciting, not just in what was already purchased, but the expandability of that facility. So we're really excited about that. And the talent that we've been able to retain and acquire at the cultivation level, I think that's the biggest thing that is really, I want to emphasize, is that it's not just Mark, right? So it's Mark and all of these people that have joined us from other acquisitions and trained under Mark. that can now go and bring that expertise across our entire network and across our entire footprint. And that learning and that knowledge that he passes down and shares with the rest of the cultivation team is just second to none. And we just share best practices across every aspect of the cultivation.
So let's get to know it.
It all starts with the plant.
Yeah,
you can't
of course.
do anything without the plant, Chad.
So let's find out the man behind the plant as we have you on. Like, Mark, talk a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get involved with Ayr Wellness? Like, what was your experience like?
Well, my experience is, we started in the Nevada industry. I started prior to the Nevada industry for years. And then once Nevada was going legal, I had the opportunity to raise funds and start a company. And we're, same thing that Ayr is doing. We were plant focused. I didn't have dispensaries initially. We were probably fifth to sixth to market. And we drove on that wagon, basically, on quality and having a high testing, safe product. Being able to use that and then backing into the dispensary side, once I was able to acquire that prior to the acquisition, that was the same motivation that we have at Ayr that I see with John Sandelman today. So, basically, not repeating myself, but it was plant focused from day one. We knew that if we had a high quality product, we were going to stand out in the market.
What impresses you the most about working with this company and the role that you provide in comparison to what you were doing before?
I think the end of the day, it's the bench that the Ayr team built. I got to participate in that, which was a super fun and interesting thing for me in life. But to watch how they structured things, took all the information that I had, took it into another a data more driven section of a lot more spreadsheets than I ever saw in my life, but it really made sense, and they absorbed it like a sponge, like nothing I've seen before. And the talent and how we even interpret it, but then the follow through on those processes is like no team I've ever worked with.
It's impressive. Megan, Beacon Securities just raised the 12-month price target this week. You announced, obviously, expanding into Illinois. I do want to circle back to Florida because it is a huge, huge opportunity. The Liberty Health brand was obviously, they got great dispensary locations. A lot of investors, especially retail investors, were very, very well versed with this company. When I look at this, I'd like to know, and this is maybe a question for both of you, and we'll begin with you, Megan, how much more efficient can you make your grow facilities in Florida, knowing that there were a lot of inefficiencies before this acquisition actually even took place, was there not?
Well, I mean, that was really the crux behind, the entire, not the entire acquisition, but the crux behind, the whole attraction of the acquisition, because of the inefficiencies of the cultivation, the stores were very inefficient in terms of their production. They had a great footprint in terms of the number of stores, but the productivity of those stores was very, very low. And that was all stemming from the inefficiencies and the difficulties of the cultivation. Because as you know, in Florida, if you don't grow it, you can't sell it. So it all starts very much at the cultivation. So in order to fix the retail, you first have to get in there and fix the cultivation. And that's really very much the number one focus. And there was a lot to be done. We're working on it, and I'll let Mark take it from there in terms of how much productivity we think we can add.
Yeah, not to get into numbers, but it's been impressive, like I said before, what has been done just on administration side, communication and SOPs. Impressive.
So let me cut you off there and break it down. I walk into a Liberty Health store a year ago. What do I see and experience? And then what am I going to see? Obviously, what's the difference now when I walk into one?
So, when we purchased it, you would walk into a Liberty Health Science store, and maybe if they had flower on the shelves, which was just only a couple days a week at best, you might have 2 or 3 strains. You walk in now, we're going to have, I think we're up to 12 strains now in Florida. And we've got flower on the shelves every day. We're still working on increasing the volume coming out of the cultivation, but we've significantly increased our yields already. They're up about 40 or 50%. A lot of that is just based on reducing the failure rate in testing, which was very high coming out of the Liberty when we acquired Liberty, and it's down to almost 0 now in terms of its failure rate. So on the testing side, so that just increases the amount of volume that can flow into the stores as well. Plus, we've launched some of our new brands down there, which is great. We launched our Origin concentrate brand, which we didn't have on the shelves before in Florida, which is a big draw for customers to come back into the store. And we've launched edibles for the first time in Florida, which were never there before.
And how's
so we're
that
drawing
progressing?
customers in with a really good new selection of products, as well as better service.
It's great. Product wise and brand wise, what is the number one seller, would you say right now, overall, when you look at all the different states that you're operating in? Mark, it's a question for you.
I mean, flower is always our driver, you know, and if it's not, it will be in certain states. Flower is always a huge part of any dispensary at the end of the day on the seed to sale side. But what that reflects back to is, you know, quality in, quality out on the production side, you know. So if you have a good flower and it doesn't have pesticides and you're really taking love to it, you're going to get better yield and a better product through your production side, which we see, you know, across the board.
So when you look at your overall strategy when procuring unique cannabis cultivars, like what's your main focus? Is it to produce exotic strains or just grow the most popular ones?
I think it's a little bit of both. We like to have the common core strains that people have a relationship with, that understand the reactions from. We like to have those, and that's a big part of our purchasers out there, you know. But at the end of the day, we're always expanding our horizons to new genetics. There's millions of genetics out there. We use multiple different techniques to go find those new genetics and put them on the shelves. Tissue culture has been a huge one for us. Strain, seed popping, cross genetics. We set up certain facilities just for this, just to find that unique strain, to cross it with something else, or to bring a new genetic on to fit that, you know, that newer market.
When you look at your techniques today and backtrack even 6 months to a year ago, does it change a lot with your job? Because you say like you're always adapting new techniques all the time.
Yeah, I would say more on the data. I mean, we're a data-driven company at the end of the day, we should be. Technology is a huge thing for us.
Of course.
Making that communication between each different state where we communicate, we have to have that data roll up instantly. And so that's a big driver for us over the last year and a half, is having that data collected correctly so we can get together as a team, make an accurate decision, and make a change. There's not one person on our team that makes a decision. We work as a group, data-driven.
Yeah. I'll wrap things up, but this has been great as far as learning just the overall concept and, you know, the growth of this company. This is a monster and a great multi-state operator. If there's anything that you want to communicate to my audience, Megan and Mark, what would it be about, you know, what's the most important message you want to get through? I know there's a lot of uncertainty regarding the whole legislative movement right now in the US. That'll come eventually, but how big of an opportunity does this whole entire space, and especially your company, present to investors? Megan, we'll begin with you.
I mean, you know, you've heard us say it many times. We're just at the very beginning of this industry. I mean, we think we're at the very early stages of the mainstreaming of cannabis and, you know, use, and it's only going up. Acceptance is only going up. We think that the size of the market is enormous, and we think the opportunity is great. But most importantly, we think it all starts with the plant, and you can't be a great cannabis company without being a great cultivator at scale of really great flower, and that's where it all starts. And that's why we're really excited to introduce, you know, Mark to your viewers and to show, you know, what we're all about in terms of the cultivation here.
Mark, I'll leave this with you. If someone sits down and asks you what makes you better, I guess, you know, than your competition, what's your answer to that?
I would go back to you know, we've been doing this as a boutique product and keeping it highest quality with low failure rates. I think my best quality is, well, one, getting the engineering, testing, and making the climates, fertigation all the same across each state. I think that is a big challenge for us, and we work together as a team. My best quality is probably walking in there, determining what we need to change and how fast we need to change it to get it to our optimum scale of where we want it to work. The culture of going through and the hiring process of culture, you know, to teach culture and to bring that culture into the group is you can't buy culture. It's something it's there or it's not. And so, the team really works around that. And I've been really proud to watch how that process works.
And that can't go underestimated, because I know some people just think, okay, you got a company that's in 10 or 12 different states and it's just turnkey, but that's so important when it comes to communication, especially on the West Coast, dealing with the proper team, the right team to bring it to scale across the country, correct?
Correct. And that's one of the things why we communicate the way we do. We when we come in and it's a new M&A facility that we walk into, they have their own family going. We come in, we send a good team in there for up to 3 to 12 months, depending on how bad the environment and construction needs to be changed, to get into we'll call it our ways. But it's just a direction that we all work together as a team, getting them to feel participation in that team model. So we're all communicating as a group and not individually. And I think that's how we walk from state to state and we're successful.
So
and we all very much appreciate each other's successes. So like, for example, in Pennsylvania, we just had our first launch of flower out of both our Rebel flower and our Seven Hills flower. And it's done really fantastic with really great reviews and Reddit for a first drop. And, everybody in Nevada, everybody at this facility, everybody in Massachusetts, they all celebrate in the success of those cultivate, because they were all part of that success, because the people in Pennsylvania learned from Mark and his team here and
Right.
the team in Massachusetts. So everybody shares in that success, and that's just part of the culture here.
So I've got great news. I'm heading to Vegas the second week of September. So you and I are going to hook up, and we're gonna sample some product. How's that sound?
Stop by any of our facilities in Vegas at the dispensary, and first time is free for you.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Excellent.
1 cent actually, 1 cent.
I had
Yeah.
a group of people out touring this week in Reno, and it was a great tour. They, it's great to be back on the road and showing investors what we're all about. It's really exciting.
Okay,
so I'm glad we can share this with your viewers.
Well, before I go, let's find out, just last question, like, were these accredited investors? And if so, like, what was the response like when you're giving the tour? What they like about the company?
Oh, I mean, it's interesting, because most of the investors that I take on tours are either looking at cannabis for the first time or really digging in and trying to expand their knowledge. And a lot of them have never been to a cultivation. Most of them have been to a retail store at one point in their life, but most of them have not been to a cultivation. And I think it's the greatest part of my job is watching the awe in their eyes the first time they take a tour of a cultivation, and seeing the science and the technology that goes behind this industry. It's really fantastic.